Thank you, choir. Seems like you got everybody excited this morning. So I want to share some parts of a story that I've shared before. But it's my story. If I want to share it again, I will. Goes back to the summer of 1980. Me and another friend of mine from Louisiana, we find ourselves up in the Arctic in Alaska, and we're in the big community of Kotzebue. I just calls it Kotz up there. It's about 3,000 residents in it. And our missionary comes and picks us up from Kotzebue. And I didn't know, but it started from that point. A whole lot of firsts in my life were about to happen. Number one, we get in this plane, and before I know it, I'm the one that's flying the plane. It's the first time I ever flew a plane in my life. Not quite the last, but probably should have been the last time I ever flew a plane in my life. But that was a first for me. Then I find out what we're going to be doing right away is we're going to be having a kids camp. There's going to be younger kids and there's going to be older kids. There's going to be 5 days of younger kids and 5 days of older kids. And this camp it's going to be in one of the villages along the Kobuk River. But this is not a drive up and drop your kids off type of camp. There are no roads up there. There's only like 5 highways in the whole state. And so what's going to happen is the missionary, in his plane, he's going to go to these other villages and pick up the kids in their plane, bring them to Ambler, and from Ambler we get in a boat, and then we travel about 7 miles upstream to this little clearing alongside the river, and that's the camp. And so when we get there on Sunday, he picks us up out of Kotzebue on Sunday, and we go to Ambler. As soon as we land, we start loading up tents and supplies in a boat, carrying 7 miles upriver and making trips all day long. We put up all the tents, we bring in all the food, and then that night, it's a little after midnight, and we got everything done. Everything's ready to start camp on Monday. And he turns to me, the missionary does, as we're getting ready to get in the boat. He turns to me, before I get in the boat, he gives me a shotgun and a handful of shells and says, "You stay here and you keep the bears away." Well, that was a first in my life of guarding food and things from bears. But I had walked through some of the woods around the camp area, and there were definitely bears around there. So, yeah, they were close enough. So then we're in just that little clearing out spot for 10 days with these kids. And so after about 7 days, and this was another first time, I've never gone that long without a shower. I had 3 showers the whole summer. But for the first shower, I've been there about a week, and my body wasn't ready, because we didn't really sweat because it wasn't really cold up there, so you didn't really sweat. But I had hair, and my hair was very oily after about a week. It just felt oily and greasy, and I didn't like that. So I grabbed the bar soap, got my shorts on and a bar soap, and I headed into the river. It was right there on the banks of the river. And there was no walking into the river at this point. I just dove in because my body would not let me walk any further. So I just had to dive in. Quickest bath I'd ever taken in my life. Didn't do that again for the rest of the summer. Once was enough. But another first in my life was the mosquitoes. Now, up there when it gets about 65, 70 degrees, it gets too hot for the mosquitoes then. They can't take that. They get dehydrated and they just go away. But in the mornings and the evenings, they come out and they're not real pleasant. So me and my partner, we'd get in our tent at night, and there'd always be a few dozen mosquitoes in our tent. But I learned how to sleep and ignore mosquitoes. How many of you could ignore a dozen mosquitoes flying around inside your tent at night? Yeah, I didn't either. We went on a mosquito killing mission every night to get rid of all the mosquitoes in our tent. I don't even like, you hear it bzzz in your ear at night. I can't stand that. I will get up, I will find that mosquito, I'll find that fly, and I will take care of it. How many of you, if you knew you had a mouse in your room, you'd go, "Oh, he'll just run off and die. Let's just go on to sleep"? No. You get up and take care of that, right? You do something about it. Well, as it turns out, we are a lot less proactive in getting rid of things that need to be gotten rid of when we're talking about things that get inside our hearts. Because what we're going to talk about is things we allow in our hearts that cause us to lose much more than just a good night's sleep. There's some things that we allow in our hearts, we will lose our relationships. We could lose our family. We could lose just everything in our lives. And the one thing, we started talking about it last Sunday, the one thing that we allow to stay in our hearts and don't do anything about in our culture today, the big thing, it's anger. It's everywhere. People are just angry, and we have so much anger in our culture that we even have a name for anger while you're driving. We call it road rage. There's a website, I don't think it's up anymore, but it's roadragers.com, and it has some very interesting stats in it. It said that 70% of people will tailgate the person in front of them to get them to drive a little faster. 71% of people will use their horn to get people out of the way, make way, I'm coming, get out of my way, that type of thing. 77% of the people will use obscene gestures toward other drivers on the road. Unless you're a woman, then it goes up to 80%. Now, as a pastor, I feel like I need to warn you in using obscene gestures while you're driving. There's an article. It was entitled this, Road Rage Bullet Hits Tip of Ray's Finger. True story, outside Salt Lake City, this guy pulls up at red light at 12:40 in the morning. A lady pulls up next to him. The light turns green. They're both trying to get on I-15. She starts driving offensively and rather crazily, so he responds by driving the same way. She yells at him. He responds by waving to her without using all his fingers. She pulls out a .357, fires 4 shots into his car. One of them hits the tip of his raised finger. No joke. All it took was a light going from red to green. Guns are pulled, shots are fired, cops are called. Now somebody's going to prison. It doesn't take much. And it happens all the time. People will get angry, not just angry in a moment. They will carry their anger throughout their lifetime. They will live in the state of mad. And all it takes is one little thing, and they'll explode. Let's go back to our verse. Ephesians 4. Be angry and do not sin. Don't let the sun go down on your anger. But they hurt me. They betrayed me. My anger is a righteous anger. I'm right to be angry over this. If they would have done to you what they did to me, you'd be angry too. And we have what our culture, our Christian culture, calls a righteous anger. Now just think about that for a moment. What other sinful, wrong act do we describe as righteous? You ever heard anybody say, I have a righteous greed. I just want more. But God will give me more. It's a good thing that I want more, so it's a righteous greed. Or I have a righteous lust. It's the way God made me. So it's a righteous lust. Or I have a righteous gluttony. I just got to eat the whole thing for the glory of God. It's a righteous gluttony. We don't use righteous to describe any other sinful attitude, but we use it for anger. We think that our anger, it's a righteous anger. Nowhere, as we talked about last week, nowhere in the Bible does it associate righteousness with human anger. So we read that verse in James chapter 1, verse 20, which says it's impossible for the anger of a human being, the anger of a man, to achieve God's righteousness. Those two things don't go together. So what would you expect God to say whenever we have an anger? And if there's no such thing as a righteous anger, what does he do? He tells us, be angry and sin not. We think he's talking about it's okay to be angry. That we talked last week. That's not what that verse is saying. So what does he tell us to do right after that? To get rid of it. Do not let the sun go down on your anger. Now, that saying right there, do not let the sun go down on your anger, that's kind of like a saying. It's kind of like it takes one to know one type of thing. So what's he saying is don't carry your anger from yesterday into today. Don't carry today's anger into tomorrow. And so the force of this is get rid of your anger as soon as you can. Don't let it hang around. Don't let your anger go from one day to the next. And certainly don't let your anger go from one season to the next. Because we have a habit of doing that. Don't let your anger go from one season of life to another season of life. Don't take your anger from your childhood and carry that into your teenage years. Don't take the anger from your teenage years and carry that to your single adult years. Don't let the anger from being a single adult be carried over to your marriage. Don't let the anger from your first marriage be carried to your second marriage. Because we have the tendency to take our anger that we have in this relationship and it carries over to these other relationships. You're angry at your boss at work. All of a sudden that gets carried over to your family. You're angry with your wife. That gets carried over to your work. And when we carry our anger from one season of life to another season of life, we lose sight of the original source of our anger. We get angry at this person. We're not even sure why. I mean, they can't do anything about it either. Because our anger is not actually with them. It's with this other person from back here 20 years ago. And we just carry that anger over, and it goes over from relationship to relationship, from one season of life to the next season of life. When you carry your anger, it's so easy to lose sight of the original source of it. And what happens, it becomes so hard to see in the mirror. In other words, this anger will just be in our lives continuously, and we don't even recognize it. Let me tell you a story of Danny Gill. He was 13 years old when he was with his parents in Mexico. And his parents were driving a car in Mexico, and it gets hit by a truck, and they both die. So now here he is, 13 years old, in a foreign country, and his parents have just died. Now fast forward a little over 30 years later. He's at a men's retreat in New Mexico. And they were doing this little event, this little tactic where they would all be in a circle and they put a chair in the middle and they would take turns sitting in that chair, and they needed to confess something that they were dealing with in their life. Confess something they were going through. And Danny, he said he wasn't sure what he was going to share. But then the guy before him says this. He says, I have a problem with foul language at work. Nowhere else. But when I'm at work, I have a problem with foul language. Then he says, it got me. He has trouble with a foul language while he's driving. He could be watching another car driving crazy, or somebody could cut him off, and he just lets it fly. Let me read you what happens next. At that point, one of the staff got in my face. He told me it was time to get real, to drop the pose and get down to the root problem. He was addressing everyone, but he was talking to me. I was confused because I thought I'd spoken my problem. I didn't know of any root problem. I just had poor discipline in my mouth when I was alone. I was territorial in my driving, but he kept after me that I need to ask God what the problem was. Finally, I said, I don't know why I get angry behind the wheel. Another staff member said, Dan, I have to ask you a question. Dan, have you ever forgiven the man who killed your parents? Immediately, tears flooded from my eyes, and I broke down sobbing uncontrollably. I guess I never had. For 35 years, I carried a burden of anger, unforgiveness, and even hatred for the man who was driving the truck that killed my parents. For 35 years, I had no idea, but it was obviously true. I laid on the floor and confessed my bitterness, anger, and unforgiveness and forgave that man. Those brothers laid their hands on me, prayed over me, and I was free. Free. It was as if a huge load was lifted off my back. I was lighter, happier than I'd ever been. It changed me. I will never be the same. I hadn't been home 20 minutes when my new freedom was put to the test. Some guy in a white Suburban came weaving up the freeway using both shoulders to pass people. But I didn't get mad. I haven't sworn or raged at another driver since. I am truly free of that burden. The anger, bitterness, and rage are all gone. It's marvelous to be free. Since that time, my witness has grown, my love for my wife has grown, my ministry has grown, all because, and catch this, I confessed to a sinful attitude I didn't even know I had. And some of you left the accident scene, the scene of the accident, but you're still carrying around the injury. And it's causing you to drift away from God. So if you're involved with an angry person, you're dating or you're engaged to an angry person, I don't care how cute she is. I don't care how rich he is. Run. Run. But I love her. I love him. You will get over it, but they will destroy you. You'll be in a relationship all the time. You're saying, all I said was, and all I did was, and then it flooded on you, all their anger. It just came upon you. And it'll always be a mystery. What did I do? And no matter how hard you apologize, no matter how hard you say, oh, I'm so sorry for this or for saying this, you will never have the feeling that everything is okay between you two, because the issue is not between you two. The issue is between something that happened maybe years back that they refuse to let go of. Do not carry your anger over to the next day. Do not carry it over to the next season of your life. Do not let something either small or big be the reason that you're still angry 5, 10, 20, or 30 years later. The next verse. And don't give the devil an opportunity. He's not saying the devil is responsible for your anger. He's saying the devil will use your anger as an opportunity to come in and mess with you. You're an angry person? You might as well have a sign on you that says, open season on me. Satan, come in and do anything you want to in my life. Because that's what will happen. He will come into your life and he will destroy you. Destroy you through that. The word opportunity, it also means a location or a place. So do not give the devil an opportunity. Do not give him a location or place. And literally it means do not give him a room in your heart. Don't give him a place to live. Probably the best example of this is Cain and Abel. They both are bringing their offering to God. Abel brings his first and his best. Cain just sort of finds a little bit, what's left over and brings that to God. So God, he rejects Cain's offering. He accepts Abel's. This makes Cain angry. And God says to him in Genesis 4, verse 6, he says, why are you angry? If you do well, will not your countenance be lifted up? But if you do not do well, sin is crouching at your door, and its desire is for you, but you must master it. What's he saying? He's saying it's like a door that anger is waiting to open so it can come in. Don't open that door. Don't let anger stay in your life and open that door. But what does Cain do? He opens the door. He keeps that anger rather than releasing it. Kills Abel. Destroys his life. And what I am hopefully getting across to you that anger will do the same thing. You let it come into your life, you don't get rid of it, you let it sit in your life, it will destroy you. Here's what we read in Proverbs. A person who does not control his temper is like a city whose wall is broken down. A city who doesn't have any walls, they're not going to prosper. They're always open to attack. So, if you loved you the way God loves you, and if you knew how much anger can destroy you the way God knows how much it can destroy you, what would you say to you? That's why these next words that we're about to read, that's why they come as no surprise at all. Knowing that God loves us, knowing that he knows what anger can do to us, they come as no surprise at all. But they do come across as very insensitive. And that's the way you're going to feel. So I'm warning you, it will seem insensitive, but it makes perfectly sense. Here we go in verse 31. Let all bitterness, anger, and wrath, shouting, and slander be removed from you, along with all malice. Now, in the Greek, it doesn't really matter what order they put words in, because just the tense and how they add things on the words will tell you if it's a noun or verb or whatever it is. So you can put them in any order. So when they want to emphasize a word, they put it at the first thing in the sentence. Now, what do you think the first word in this sentence is? The first word is all. All of it. Get rid of all your anger. All of it? The assumption is you can get rid of it. You can. Like taking the trash out. You're going to put your trash out on trash day, right? Just take it to the curb and you get rid of all of it. That's what he's saying. Get rid of all of it. Just get rid of it. It's not that easy. Paul's saying, yes, it's that easy. Just get rid of it. Like you take the trash out, just get rid of it. It's that easy. But Paul, you don't know what they did to me. You don't know how much they hurt me. Yeah, I believe people should forgive. But I think it's when I hurt them, they should forgive me. But you know what they did to me? They betrayed me. They stabbed me in the back. Paul, if you knew my story, if you knew what they did, you wouldn't be saying just get rid of it. And here's the insensitive part. Paul's essentially saying, I don't need to hear your story. I don't need to hear it. Just get rid of it. You don't know how much they hurt me. We have difficulty with this because we get all tangled up on who's to blame. Think of it like this. You go into the doctor's office and he runs tests and comes back to you and says you have cancer. The next thing out of your mouth is not going to be, well, let's run some more tests. I want to know how I got that cancer. How did it get into my life? What did I do? Did I have a habit? Did I eat something I shouldn't have? How did that cancer get into my life? No, that's not the next thing you say. The next thing you say is, how can we get rid of it? But what do we do when we have anger? Let me tell you how that got into my life. And you rehearse it. What did they do to make you angry? You tell your friends about it. This is how they made me angry. You let everybody know what they did, how much they got you angry. Paul saying, no. That shouldn't be your priority. Your priority should be to get rid of it. But they owe me. They hurt me. They need to be paid back. Paul's saying getting rid of it is more important than getting paid back. Getting rid of it is more important than being treated fairly. The most important thing is getting rid of it. It's not resolving everything so everything comes out even. But they hurt me when I was a child. They deserve this. Paul said the issue is not they deserve it. The issue is you need to get rid of this. It's not about them deserving something. This isn't about what they deserve. It's about getting rid of it. You've already let this take over your life, the last 2 seasons of your life. Don't hang on to it any further. Get rid of it. So, if I were to come to you and say, okay, I want to give you 30 minutes. I want you to tell me what they did to you. You tell me how they hurt you. You tell me what they took from you. You just give me all the details. And so for the next 30 minutes, you spew that out, and I hear all that. The chances are, I'm going to go, you're right. They don't deserve to live. You just need to go ahead and just take them out. In fact, you convince me. Don't tell anybody. I will take them out for you. Let's just get rid of them. But you give me 30 minutes and let me tell you how the Holy Son of God came and gave his life on a cross. The God himself in the flesh came and gave his life for you to take care of all your sins so they're all wiped out so you can spend an eternity with him. And you begin to grasp that as I begin to share with you in scriptures and what all he's done and why he did it. And then something in your heart begins to change. And then you go, how can I hold something against somebody else when God took away all my sin so that I could be in a relationship with him? Yes, they took my childhood. Yes, they shouldn't have been at my graduation. Yes, they should have done this. And yes, they betrayed me. But in light of that, they don't owe me. I forgive them. What I want to get you to understand is that it's forgiveness that breaks the power of this bondage to anger. It's why Paul says the next verse, and be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving one another, just as God also forgave you in Christ. See, unforgiveness at its core is a failure to embrace the gospel. To the extent that you're able to give forgiveness to another person is to the extent that you understand the gospel and to the extent you're just faking it. See, the litmus test to show that you really grasp the gospel is your ability to forgive and to give grace to the person who's hurt you the most and deserves it the least. You have the power, you have the ability, and you have the privilege to forgive another person. How? Just as to the same extent that God has forgiven you. That needs to sink in. If you're a follower of Christ, forgiveness is not an option, it's an obligation. Read this in Colossians. Bearing with one another and forgiving one another. If anyone has a grievance against another, just as the Lord has forgiven you, so you also do forgive. And I think it's a shame. It's worse than a shame. I think it's a tragedy. It's a disgrace that people who would call themselves Christians, who would claim that Jesus is their Lord, who would partake of communion, and then not let go of something someone did to them when their whole hope of being with Christ in the future is in God letting go. Why would you want to hang on to that? So why? Why do people refuse to let go? Why is it that when that hurt comes, whether it's something small, when it's something, by the way, somebody's driving, or whether it's somebody betrayed you, somebody stabbed you in the back, why do we have such problems letting go? Jesus told us why. In Matthew 18, he tells this parable about a king who had a servant that owed him so much he couldn't have paid it back in 1,000,000 lifetimes. But the king just forgave it all. But then that servant turns around to a fellow servant who owes him just a little bit. It's not a whole lot, but he refuses to forgive him. Instead, sends him to the torture place. In other words, you're going to pay for this. I'm not going to let you off. So Jesus explains, why did he do that? Here we read this in verse 30. But he wasn't willing. Instead, he threw him into the prison until he could pay what he was owed. He wasn't willing. So unforgiveness is a willingness issue. It's a choice. It's not that you don't have sufficient reason to forgive. The cross has given us sufficient reason to forgive. It's just you don't have the desire to forgive. You just don't want to. That's what it boils down to. You just don't want to. Forgiveness is a choice, but if you're a follower of Christ, it's your only choice. Your only one. So how do you know you've forgiven them? Back to our verse. Be kind to one another and compassionate to one another. That's it right there. How do you know you've forgiven them? You're kind to them. So you come tonight to our Latvia auction and you're in line at the buffet to get some food or something like that, and I'm serving you food. I don't go, I don't like him. There's your potatoes right there. No, you're kind to them. And then you says you're compassionate or tenderhearted. You hear something terrible happen to them, you don't go, yes, they got what they deserve. No, your heart goes out to them. You have compassion. That's how you know you get this. So, who's that person when their name or their face comes across you that you just, that anger wells up inside of you? Maybe it's one person. Maybe it's a lot of people. I don't know. It's time to let it go. Don't carry it, this anger, the next hour, the next day, or next season of your life. It's time to let it go. It's a choice. It's a choice. That's how God sees this. It's a choice you had to make. That's why Paul says, just get rid of it. It's not that easy, Paul. Yes, it is. He says, just get rid of it, all of it. Just get rid of it. Like you take out the trash, just get rid of it. It's a choice. But if you're someone who takes being a Christ follower seriously, it's your only choice. It's your only choice. Because you hang on to anger, Satan will take that opportunity, he will come into your life, and he will destroy it. And you will find yourself, like Dan Gill said of himself, I didn't even realize it. I got freed of a sin that I didn't even know existed, but he carried that around him for years. But when he finally made that choice, nothing like it. Nothing like that load being lifted off your shoulders. Nothing like knowing that by your whole life, he said his whole life changed at that point because he allowed anger to come in and take over. He got freed of something that he didn't even realize he had, because that's what anger, it becomes such a part of your life, you don't even realize it. And we're going to be talking some more about this in the coming weeks. But that's a lot of people. They're carrying around this anger and they don't even realize it. It's sort of they stay simmering right below the surface. No, it's a choice. Just like you have a choice in deciding to follow God or not. That's a choice. And some of you may be up against that choice right now, deciding we're not going to be a Christ follower. You can make that choice. But you also make the choice, you are a Christ follower, you want to keep hanging on to anger? No, Paul tells us, get rid of it. Get rid of it. You have a choice. You can do that today. We're going to sing a hymn of invitation. And as we do, if God is leading you to make that decision, to come and just get rid of it. You may want to come and kneel and pray. You might come and say, Pastor, I want to get rid of this anger. I want to get rid of this that I've carried for so long. And it may be anger against God. It could be anger against another person.